Time for another board game review, and this time we have the game Wildlands. This was sent to me by Osprey Games and is designed by Martin Wallace. The great darkness has fallen, and the Empire with it. The arcane crystals which once powered entire cities were shattered, and the darkness was destroyed by the magics unleashed. All that remains are the lawless ruins known as the Wildlands, and the shards of the crystals that have been strewn across them. Now a few souls, the brave and the desperate, seek the shards to harness their power for their own ends. Take control of one of four factions, from the spell-slinging Mages Guild or the nimble Nomads, to the versatile Lawbringers or the hard-hitting Pit Fighters. Each brings their own playstyle with unique decks of action cards determining their abilities on the battlefield, so plan your tactics carefully. Dash through the ruins to grab the crystals you so desperately desire, or focus your efforts on taking out the opposition. But take care, danger may be lurking in the darkness. In the Wildlands, opportunity awaits, if you fight for it. Let me show you how to play. So in Wildlands, it's a race to get to 5 points, and you can get points by either knocking out other players' characters or picking up your own crystal shards. Now, there are two sides of the board. There's like a less complicated side like this, but I'll show you the other side so you can get an idea of some of the more complicated terrain. Now, there are 4 different factions you get to choose from in the base box. First, we got the Guild. These are mages, and they're very powerful but fragile spellcasters. Except for this big guy, Lunk, their mobile librarian. The Lawbringers are tough in a fight, and each character comes with their own specialty. The Pit Fighters are all about up-close, extremely physical melee attacks. So they're all about punching the shit out of people. And the Nomads are just kind of hard workers, and they all are all about supporting each other. With each faction, you get minis with colored bases for your characters, along with your own set of crystals and your own action deck. For each character card, there's a symbol that matches their action cards, and then also their health here, and their name. This is Edith. The action cards have different character symbols on them, along with actions. What's annoying about the design of these cards, though, is that the pictured character means absolutely nothing. I'll go into that later. But just to get, here's a sense of what the action cards kind of look like. If you take a look at this map here, there are 42 spaces on it. This is the more complicated side, but that's okay. And the spaces are all divided by these solid lines. A move action will move a character from one space to another. To move or shoot between adjacent spaces, you gotta cross a white line. Arrows like this indicate a climb to higher ground. You have to climb to enter these spaces, meaning you gotta spend an additional movement to get up here. If you move back down, though, that doesn't cost any extra movement. You'll also notice that each space on the board has different numbers. This is used for setup, but also if you look and see that some numbers have a white number and a black circle, that means that's covered. And if there's just a regular circle, a black number and a white circle, it does not contain cover. So the way you can determine line of sight is if you can trace a line from the one part of a core to any part of another space's core, passing through white lines, but without passing through high ground or another space containing cover, then you have line of sight. So space 23 would have line of sight to space 14. However, space 19 would not have line of sight to space 31 because this cover space is in the way. If you ever take damage, you put damage tokens on that character's card, and once they run out of HP, then that character is knocked out. So let's go over how to set up the game. You have a map card deck here, and as you can see, they have a bunch of different numbers in here, and you deal 10 cards to each player. Now, looking at these cards, you have to assign 5 of these cards to your characters, and these will determine where those characters will spawn. One little nitpick, they do not have the little lines for 6 and 9, so I had to draw those on. Very annoying. Now, it's very important to decide which spaces you're going to assign to your characters, because the other 5 cards you don't use will be given to the player on your right. And those cards will determine where that player's crystal shards are placed on the board. Now, just for ease, I'm going to do this randomly. You do want to put more thought into this, but let's say I take these 5 numbered cards. I would then place those map cards on each character. You can look at these at any time, but you can't show these until the characters are revealed. Then these 5 cards you did not choose are handed to the player on your right, and that's where their crystals are going to be. Then you draw 7 action cards from your deck, and then you're set. Now I'm just going to set up the board semi-randomly, but so you can just get a sense of what it looks like. All right, now as you can see, there are crystals laid all over the board. This was done randomly. Normally you would put a lot more thought into this, but for an example game, this is fine. Now, on most turns in a game of Wildlands, you reveal one character, take as many card actions as you like, and then draw 3 cards, and that's it. Then the next player on your left will do the same thing. Each crystal shard that you claim is worth 1 point, and each enemy character you kill is worth 1 point. The first player to 5 points wins. So at the beginning of your turn, if you have not revealed all your characters, you must reveal at least one. So, looking here, let's say the mages decide to reveal Edith, who is on space 4. So Edith spawns on that space. You can reveal more characters if you want, but you might want to keep the element of surprise for later turns. Totally up to you. Now, looking at your action cards, character symbols indicate which characters can move or collect shards, and these flags indicate what actions they can do. Every time you perform an action, you need to pause because in this game, other players can play interrupt cards to interrupt you. You can only take actions that affect characters that have been revealed, so if you want to use other characters, you have to reveal them first. Otherwise, whenever you play cards, you discard them in your personal discard pile. Once you've played any cards you want to play, you draw 3 cards from your deck, unless you draw up to 7, in which case you have to stop. And remember, if anyone gets 5 points, they immediately win. But let's go into the actions now. So first off, the simplest action you can do is move. You look at the character's icon, in this case Edith is the witch hat, and you would play, I could play 1, 2 cards and move Edith twice. I would move 1, wait, and move again. Another action you can do is climb. So Joni here, you can see her symbol is the star. So if I play 2 cards with star symbols, I can climb because you need an extra card to move up onto a higher ground. But if I'm moving down, I just need 1 card played. Now note again how frustrating this is. Even though I'm moving Joni with these star symbols, for some reason this guy is on the card. Why? I don't know. It's really stupid. I always tell players to completely ignore the art and just look at the symbols, because the symbols correspond to what the characters can do. Another action you can do is claim a shard. You can only claim shards of your own color. So let's say Marie here moves with 1 card onto this space, and then in order to claim a shard, you have to play 3 of that character's symbol. Then you can pick up a shard, and that is worth 1 very valuable point. Alternatively, let's say that this faction's team member Carrick was knocked out. Now you'll notice that this symbol here is the axe. Now, from now on, for picking up a shard, you can actually use 3 of that dead character's symbol for any character. So even though Marie doesn't use the axes, since Carrick is knocked out, these 3 would be a valuable use to spend to pick up the shard. Now let's go over flag actions. Now, as you can see, some actions are on the bottom of these. That means any character can use those. Like this could be used for anyone to use melee. Otherwise, they have to be attached to the specific character symbols. So here we've got tack, and tack symbol is this blunderbuss gun thing here. Now, if tack was on the same space as Marie here, then tack could use this action to deal 1 damage. Then the opposing player has an option to block it if possible. And the only way to block a melee attack is with another melee attack. So they could discard this melee attack to block it and take no damage. Otherwise, they would take a damage cube on that character. If this player had 2 different characters on here, then they would choose which character was targeted. This action is heavy melee. If this character is on the same space as an enemy character, you can play this card and it'll do 2 damage to that character. However, like I mentioned before, if that player chooses to discard a card for that character with a melee action, then they can block the attack. Now, only regular melee cards can be used to block heavy melee and melee. Heavy melee can't block anything. So that's an important distinction. Only the single swords can block attacks, but remember that the double swords can still do 2 damage if they're successful. Another action you can do is a range attack. So right now this guy has line of sight on this space here. So by playing this card, he could do 1 damage to this character. An even more lethal version of that is the heavy range attack, which would do 2 damage. However, this one has a limit. A character cannot be more than 2 spaces away. But in this case, this character is on a hill, so they can reach any lower space that's within line of sight. So she could target this character and deal 2 damage.
The area attack action, you can target an adjacent space or the same space your character is on, and every character on that space takes a damage. So if he could throw a magic spell over at this character and do 1, or he could target this character, but then he would get damaged as well. This is also the only attack that can attack from low ground to high ground. Now, similarly, like how melee attacks can block other melee attacks, the only way to block range attacks or area attacks is this shield icon. This can't block melee, but it can block any ranged or area attack if you discard it outside your turn as defense. A cover action can block a ranged or heavy ranged attack, but not an area attack, but it only works if the character is in a space that has cover. Then they can use a cover card discarded outside their turn to block a ranged attack. A rally action lets you move 2 characters, but in order to use that, the 2 characters must be in the same or adjacent spaces. So right now, this symbol applies to this character, and since this character is adjacent, now both these characters can move as one action. And they don't even have to move together. Like, this guy could go here, and this guy could go here. And the fly action lets you move a character up to 2 spaces in one action, and they can ignore high ground rules. So she could fly, whoop, over there. And just as a reminder of how defense works, remember, one sword can block any of these swords, shield and cover can block these, and shield can block area attacks. Finally, there are 3 special wild actions. This first one is called Wild Movement. This can be used to move any of your characters 1 space. It can also be used to pay the additional cost for climbing. So this is useful if you really need to move a character, but you don't have a movement symbol for that character in your hand. You can even use these to contribute towards claiming shards as well. This is draw 2 cards. You just draw 2 action cards immediately, which can be very useful if you're running low. And this is Interrupt. This lets you play this card out of turn immediately after another player takes an action. That's why it's important in this game to pause in between each action you do. What happens is that player gets to finish their action, and then it goes to your turn. And you can play as many cards as you like, one at a time. And then an interrupting player can be interrupted again. If someone else plays an interrupting card, then that player gets to have a turn out of turn. The only rule for interrupts is you can't interrupt immediately after a character has been revealed, or if a different interrupt has been played. So if someone plays an interrupt, they get at least 1 action before they can be interrupted again. Otherwise, like I said before, every time you do a successful attack, you put damage cubes on the cards, and if they get up to their health and damage and they're knocked out, and you collect their miniature as a point, because every kill you get of an enemy character is a point. Or every time you use 3 of a symbol of a character, you can pick up your own crystal if you're on the same space. And each of those is a point. Once you get 5 points, you're the winner. Otherwise, if one player loses all of their characters, then the game immediately ends and whoever has the most points wins. If there's a tie for most points, you continue playing until one player has more points than the others.
Alright, let me just say right off the bat, this game is fantastically fun. It's just pure, simple, smash 'em up fun. It feels very video gamey, like you just throw your guys onto this map and you're running around grabbing the crystals as fast as you can and beating each other up for points. It never overstays its welcome and has just enough going on to keep it interesting. All the factions have cool differences that still feel fairly balanced, like you've got the pit fighters who love punching, those are my favorite, but you've also got glass cannon mages or special abilities like the rallying and the flying. I really like that you get to pick the locations for one of your opponents at the beginning of the game. When you assign your 5 map cards to your characters, you can decide if you want to scatter one of your opponent's gems all around the board, or you're like, okay, I'm going to make sure that I put their crystal next to one of my guys so that I can ambush them later. It's still going to be pretty chaotic because everyone reveals their gems all at once and then you just throw them on the board. And they're going to be all over the place, but it's still a really fun little mechanic. The card play is very simple and pure, which I appreciate. It's fun collecting little sets so you can maximize your character's actions. Alright, I play this to move here and I got 3 cards, bam, pick up the crystal. Combat is clean and easy to understand. You have a very clear chart to show you what blocks what. Oh, you hit me with a melee? I block you with a melee. I like that you have to make decisions on whether you want to take a hit to a character or use up your cards to defend. Because sometimes, even though you could defend, that card will have other symbols on it that you need for a later turn. So maybe you're like, okay, I'll take the hit on this one so that I don't waste my cards. Because you can only draw 3 cards at the end of your turn. The game gets really fun when it's closer to the end and everyone starts interrupting each other, and that becomes super important. It can get a little confusing of keeping track who interrupted who first, but as long as you stick with the guideline of 3 seconds between actions or so, it can be manageable. It gives a nice tension to the last part of the game, because if someone's got 4 points and you need to make sure they don't get that 5th point, every single moment, every single action they take is crucial. And so it's constantly like, if one player is winning, they're like, okay, I moved to this space, and then you're just waiting to see if anyone's going to interrupt you. It's fantastic. One thing I mentioned design-wise or art-wise that I really dislike is that the cards should not have the characters on them. It is so stupid. Like, the art doesn't mean anything. You only need to look at the symbols for the character symbols and for the flag actions. The card art should have just been the factions or something. Like maybe like a symbol for the faction, or all 4 or 5 characters pictured. I don't know. But what it does is, especially for people playing it for the first time, it confuses the shit out of them. They're like, wait, this card is for this character? No. It's so dumb. And you can't blame them because, yeah, I mean, if the character is on the card, you just assume that, oh, this character card means I play all actions for that character? No. It's all based on the symbols. Overall, though, this game's design is super clean. It's simple. It's fun. There's just enough tension and strategy to keep it from being shallow. If you want a game where you can just run around and beat the shit out of your friends, but still have some strategic thinking and really satisfying card play, I highly recommend this game. I've played some of the expansions. There's like other maps and different factions you can get. It's a blast. It's really, really great. I highly recommend it.